Welcome to The Manly Catholic. In this podcast, we will inspire, challenge, and equip all men to become the men they were created to be. Join us as we journey together to become the best versions of ourselves and strive to change our communities one man at a time. Hello all, welcome to another episode of The Manly Catholic. This is James with Dan McNally.
That's me.
Dan, how are you doing?
I am caffeinated.
Third cup? Fourth cup?
This will be the fourth cup.
All right. Love coffee.
Oh, it's good. What kind of coffee is this, James?
This is from Mystic Monk Coffee.
Oh, what?
One of our
it tastes.
sponsors.
It tastes different. What is it? A new blend?
It sure is a new blend. It's the coffee of the month.
Oh, and what's that?
It's from Mexico. All it says is Mexico.
Okay, so it's from Mexico and it's called Mexico.
That's all I got.
Okay.
I'm gonna look it up for our listeners here.
What is coffee of the month? Do they do a different blend every month?
They sure do.
Wow.
Mexico Mystic. As I'm looking this up, let's do a Hail Mary. Kick
Okay.
this episode off.
Love it. Maybe before we look it up,
That's true.
you're like, oh, just pray while I'm.
Name of the Father,
the Son, and the Holy
Spirit.
Spirit.
Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Father, Son, and Holy
Holy
Spirit.
Spirit.
Amen. We have, if you guys can see, I'm going to point it up here.
Boom.
The Immaculate Conception.
There she is.
And then we have this from the Catholic Company. This is the Immaculate Heart of Mary, for those of you wanting to know. Okay, I'm looking this up.
What are you looking up?
Oh, this is decaf?
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
I've
This
been
doesn't even
duped.
count.
You duped me, Lord, and I let myself be duped.
Let's see.
This placebo effect is strong in me.
Oh, no, this is not.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm like, why do I feel so good? I hate decaf.
One of the smoothest and most distinct Mexican coffees we've ever had. The Mexico Oaxaca mixed. I'm butchering this. I'm going to say Mexico Guadalupe Miramar.
Usually,
It's an ideal breakfast cup with its notes of caramel or caramel.
Ooh, I'll let you stick with your
I like
preference.
caramel.
Good.
And
Our Lady of Mount
mixed
Caramel.
nuts and a creamy finish. This selection is best enjoyed black, prepared with a French press. This was not prepared with a French press.
It is black, though.
It is black, so I do apologize.
I forgive you.
All right, thank you.
I normally have this sort of smug, like, oh, I know how to pronounce that word. But I actually don't know how to pronounce that word, so I've been humbled.
Good for you. Way to be humble.
Thanks, man.
Humility.
It's my greatest quality.
Humility.
It's the best thing about me. It's what I do best.
Is it?
Yeah.
You're really exhibiting
It's what makes me
humility right now.
amazing.
Wow. Keep
Makes
going.
me yep. I'm going to
going.
stop.
What's going on in Dan's life right now?
Well, we got work. We got That is
We
what
do.
we're all about.
We do.
We're just made to work.
Can I
Right.
just say something?
What?
Saint Maximilian Kolbe.
That's
That's all I gotta say.
okay. What about him?
So I'm on this was I think 2 weeks ago on the Hallow app. They
Okay.
they do like a Saints in 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically do the life of a saint in 7 days. Saint Maximilian was I think 2-3 weeks ago. His feast day I think was what, August 11th, 12th. That man was amazing.
Okay, tell me about him.
So I'm gonna butcher all the little details, the minutia, but basically, he was a man who. How do I describe this? What he went through. So for those who don't know, he was in a concentration camp, and a prisoner tried to escape, and they caught him. And so for punishment for the rest of the prisoners, they basically chose 10 random people, and they were going to execute them via starvation. And so I think it was the last guy that was picked. He basically pleaded for his life. He said, please, I'm a husband and a father, and I have a family. And Maximilian stepped up, and he said, take me instead. I'm a Catholic priest. And priests were especially known to get treated poorly for the fact that they were religious people. But anyway, so this St. Maximilian, he, even in the midst of being in the starvation chambers, he would administer and encourage the fellow prisoners as long as possible. And he was the last one standing, essentially. And if I remember correctly, basically they realized that they weren't going to be able to kill him because his spirit was just so incredible that they had to kill him via lethal injection. But even before he got to that point, he was a man who loved our mother, which I know I talked about in Lumen Gentium Part 2 quite a bit, how incredible Mary is, which we're going to do an episode on her, I promise, at some point. And, he started, what was it called? What was the organization?
Something Immaculata, Knights of the Immaculata?
Yeah, Knights of the Immaculata, which actually, and it became a newspaper, or he started a newspaper, a newsletter, and it's actually still in publication today. And you can go on their website and...
the Militia Immaculata.
Yeah,
That's
Militia Immaculata. And... and when he was younger, a fun story about him, he was always very... he grew up in a very pious family, but he was kind of a rowdy boy, and he kind of had a temper on him. He was always just getting into mischief. And basically his mom told him, I think he was like 9 or 10, she basically told him, Maximilian, what's going to become of you? Because she was like so frustrated.
If she only
and fed
knew.
up. If she only knew. And but according to the story, when she said that, it actually really hit him hard.
What is going to become of me?
Yeah. And so I forget if he was at adoration or if he was in church, but basically he received a vision of his Blessed Mother, and she offered him. So there's the red crown and the white crown.
Mm-hmm.
So a red crown, for those who don't know, is for martyrdom, and the white crown is for purity.
That's how I understood it.
Purity,
yeah.
right? Yeah. And
I'll fact check you.
Yeah, please fact check me. And he basically said, well, I want both. And so she basically kind of smiled at him, and that was the end of the vision. And so, goes throughout his studies. After that kind of turning point, he just totally dedicated himself to being very pious and religious and dedicated himself to the Blessed Mother.
Looks like white crown is a life of heroic virtue.
There you go. And then the red crown is for martyrdom.
But
anyways, so the reason I bring him up, I actually just saw this official act of consecration to Mary written by St. Maximilian Kolbe, and it made me... Oh, is that what you have?
It was funny, in the Lumen Gentium episode, we talked about becoming a slave to good habits. There's a book I was reading that was talking about, you're going to be a slave to something. Well, have you talked about the consecration before on the show? Consecration is this idea of like being a slave of Christ. Mm-hmm. Like who better if you're gonna be a slave to something, instead of being a slave to your passions, why not be a slave to Christ? Anyway,
was it St. Paul who said you're a slave to sin?
That sounds like him.
It sounds like a St. Paul quote. But no, it's true. I mean, you are gonna be a slave to something because, like you said, you're tied to your habits. You're a slave to your habits, so you might as well make some good habits. Yeah. Right? And you're gonna be don't be a slave to sin, but be a slave to Christ. Which we kind of talked about too in Lumen Gentium, which is the pursuit of holiness, the universal call to holiness, which is what we're all called to be and to do, and we're obligated to do so. And you might as well pursue Christ
as well.
Which leads into the Imitation of Christ.
Whoa! What a transition!
Which is another amazing book.
Have you read it recently?
I haven't read it recently. I kind of jump in and out of it because pretty much every little chapter you could probably chew on for at least a week. I think it was Jim Caviezel on Hallow as well, who did a little spiel from the Imitation of Christ. And
I need to reread that. I read that when I was younger,
I think
I was too young at that point, and I got to the part about like being a worm and like you suck and everything is you just horrible. And I was like, I don't like this.
Being a worm. You don't like being a worm?
there's certain benefits, but
isn't that a sign of a good book though too? Is that different stages of life
strikes you differently?
Yeah. That it hits you hard.
Well, the Gospels do that.
The Gospels,
right? Just the ultimate sign of a good book. It hits you differently at different stages of life. That's true.
Have you had a
Twilight was the same when I was a kid as it was when I was this is a joke. I've never read
the Twilight or the
no,
book the Twilight.
The book. I was trying to make a funny and it wasn't funny.
Are you
Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Yeah. Was Jacob the werewolf?
To be honest with you, okay, like Jacob was the werewolf, yeah.
Okay.
Edward was the vampire. And I feel like that movie gets a lot of flack. And yeah, there are fair criticisms to hurl at that movie. But I would stand my ground defending the narrative and most of the symbolism and most of the storytelling in those movies. I think the story it's just like the classic like Harry Potter's evil. So, but no, like the medium is magic, yes, and that's something we might take issue with. I get that. But the medium of Twilight is like teen fantasy romance, dark, whatever. But the message is not necessarily one that is a negative one. I think there's a lot of, again, heroic self-sacrifice, a lot of chastity, and a lot of good.
Twilight.
Well, before I make any very specific and grandiose claims, I probably need to like do a little. Go back through and take some notes.
Chastity, I'm just curious because I haven't read.
Well, yeah, like I mean, in the first movie, the whole idea is like he's this vampire and she's a human and he thirsts for human blood, but he loves her, and it's this whole idea of he is able to subdue his lesser passions for the sake of protecting the object of his affection. And even like it's both implicitly and explicitly sexual, right? Because they're teenagers, right? So there's obviously this element of the story, right, where there's the sexual aspect of it. But he like both in terms of like his desire for her in that way, and in terms of his desire to drink her blood, he has to exercise not only like powerful self-control, but just like living his life in a way that he doesn't expose himself to this as much as he can. And there's, I think, a real virtue, even if it's at bare minimum just like a secular, like human virtue. Like I do think that story does take a lot of opportunities to teach, at the very minimum, basic human virtue, something that I don't know, like the Stoics would appreciate. So I think there's something to be said for. I'm Team Edward, if I haven't made that clear. But that's neither here nor there, is it?
I'm changing topics here, but we're talking about movies and stuff. I did want to mention too, which we could dive into Harry Potter a lot too, because I know,
guys, not even we know where this episode is going.
That's true.
And I'm excited.
So, Harry Potter, I know, is very controversial amongst the Catholic world, but Father Vincent Lampert, who we've had on the show a couple times, I think he said it best, because he didn't directly say like Harry Potter was bad, but he basically said, if your children know the Harry Potter stories better than they know the Gospels,
okay,
then you
but you could say that about anything. I mean, you could literally say that about anything. If your children know the Power Rangers characters better than the Gospels, they should need to read the Gospels more.
Right. But I think his point was that I think people are missing the bigger picture. And they're thinking, because like Lord of the Rings.
Well, right. I mean, people are, especially
Gandalf
in like
is
the
a
Catholic
wizard.
world, people are obsessed with Lord of the Rings. Like that's the Harry Potter of like the Catholic homeschool world, right?
And
I don't mean that as a dig.
No, not at all. No, but what I'm saying though too is that, like they talk about witchcraft and stuff and all
wizardry.
That. But I think you can. I think too with Harry Potter is they basically said, the good guys, so to speak, they are like the ends justify the means, because they like break all these rules and stuff too. But then I actually looked into that as well, because I've heard that from someone, and I'm like, well,
like you could get into just law. Like, what is a just law?
Yeah, exactly. You can dive into that too, because I think what they were referencing is Dolores Umbridge when she comes in as the headmaster, and she basically makes all these unjust rules and punishes people for no apparent reason. So yeah, they broke the rules because it was unjust.
Where I would draw the line, I think, with Harry Potter, personally is there's this offshoot of the Harry Potter universe.
Oh, yeah.
The Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, Fantastic
Beasts. And Where to Find Them, I think, is the full title. I don't really know those movies or books. Are they books? I guess they must be. I don't know those as well. But I remember seeing the second one, and it tied Harry Potter historically to like Salem witches and like actual witchcraft. And it was at that point that I said, okay, I can't endorse this because it's literally making a historical tie to evil and to demonic forces. So it's at that point that I say, well, of course, because it's not just using magic as like the medium, as like this is the weapon and this is the sword and shield that we use. It just happens to be, a wand and whatever and an invisibility cloak. When it becomes historically tied to the demonic, okay, yeah, I have to bow out. You know what I mean?
Sure. Right.
So I get that, but like, it's storytelling. It's look at what is the big picture here. What are we learning from this, and what are we taking away from it? What is the fruit that is being born of this?
Yeah, because I mean, again, in any series, you can become obsessed with it, and there's people who are obsessed with Disney, and you can
Disney
say
adults. That's becoming more and more of a thing.
Yeah, but no, but again, the bigger picture is like, if you're becoming that obsessed with Disney, where like all the minor details of like Mickey Mouse and how he was made and stuff, but you don't know like your basic catechism.
For the Mickey Mouse super fans out there, I don't want you to feel like you don't belong here. James, he didn't think about that before. Just know that you're you're welcome here too.
Guys, yes, you are more than welcome here. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to that amazing episode. I just want to take a quick break to thank one of our sponsors, which is especially near and dear to my heart because it's all about coffee. For the best coffee for a great cause, we recommend Mystic Monk Coffee. Roasted with prayer by the Carmelite Monks in Wyoming, Mystic Monk Coffee has the ultimate cup waiting for you. See more at mysticmonkcoffee.com. If you decide to support the podcast on our Patreon page at the $20 per month level, we will actually send you a bag of Mystic Monk Coffee for free. As you all know, one of our missions with the podcast is to help support our priests. So what better way to do that than to combine coffee with the priesthood? Go check out their website today. Again, that's mysticmonkcoffee.com. Thank you all so much for listening. Let's get back to that episode. I'm going stream of consciousness here.
Let's do it. Let's see what comes out.
Dracula.
Did I tell you that that's my second favorite book of all time?
Is it Catholic? Was the author Catholic?
It's super Catholic. I am very willing to believe that Bram Stoker's Catholic, but we're going to Google it. Bram Stoker Catholic ? Let's see. Bram Stoker Catholic? Stoker was raised a Protestant. He was a strong supporter of the Liberal Party, keen interest in Irish affairs. Looks like no, but he has a strong sense of the Eucharist and its power and its presence because the Eucharist is a character in Dracula. Don't know if you knew that.
Oh, did not.
Have you read the book?
I've not.
Oh my goodness. Maybe we do an episode on Dracula.
We should do a book study.
It's an epic. It's so... okay, from the beginning, first of all, this book...
Tell me about it.
You know... when you watch a scary movie and you're just tense, and if you're in a dark room and like there's a room next to you and you can't see into it and you're like, well, there's probably a monster in there.
Yes.
Just that feeling. That's how you feel when you're reading it.
Oh,
I don't know how to explain that. You're reading a book and it's immersive and terrifying from the first page. Oh, it's terrifying, and I'm gonna do this. It just I'm gonna read it. Plunges you. So I think Jonathan Harker is the name of the main character. It has been a while. I say it's my second favorite book. I don't know the names of the characters. Jonathan Harker is this like real estate guy.
Wait. What's your first favorite book?
Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens.
Oh,
for similar but different reasons.
I feel like all the literature I was required to read in high school, I want to reread because I read The Tale of Two Cities. I didn't like it the first time. Yeah. But I was in high school. I was like a sophomore.
Well, no, same. I read it in high school.
Well, then you were more.
Well, no. I hated it in high school. Okay. I reread it in college, and I remember I read the last page, and the last page of that book is one of my favorite pieces of literature. Well, obviously, it's my favorite book. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read.
Right.
But I remember the first time I read that page, I got to the end and I was like, okay. I have a thick skull, but I don't think I got it. And I like reread it and I talked to my brother about it, and he's like, well, look, like, duh, like this is, and I reread it and I just like wept. I don't know, dude, I'm dense, but no.
Why does that make you dense?
Because I read something that seems to me now to be so obvious, but it was not. I think And this actually gets into another principle, is this idea that I think as Americans, like we read books. I don't know if it's Americans or just moderns, but like we read books to say that we read books. Like, oh, have you read this book? Yes, I read that. Well, tell me about it. And you're like, well, I don't remember anything from it.
Yeah.
I said, well, then why did you read it?
Right.
Like chew on it, like sit with it, read it slowly, reread it. And yeah, otherwise, what's the point?
Sorry, you were telling me about Dracula.
Yeah, so Dracula, it starts out with this guy in Transylvania. I don't remember exactly what the location is, but he is going to finalize this real estate deal with the guy who owns this castle, and he goes out into the woods. He's guided there by a coach driver who is super creepy, cold, tall, scary, cold hands, just like Edward Cullen, and except Edward Cullen is gorgeous.
Of course.
Anyway,
I digress.
It's like dark forest, these weird blue flames, these strange people, and he gets to the I don't want to give away too much. It's all early in the book, but the sort of picture that he paints for you is terrifying. It's and not just in the visual of what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. That's terrifying by itself, but the behaviors of the character of Dracula, the way that he moves, the things that he does, even in the first chapter, are just make your skin crawl. It's not just this vampire monster guy who's scary because he can hurt you or whatever. It's the very essence of who he is and what he does. And I think the overall story of Dracula, for me, is truly a study on what authentic masculinity and fake masculinity or toxic masculinity is, if you want to put it that way, and what authentic femininity and what fake or toxic femininity is. This idea. So there's a scene in the book. I will give this part away. It's a scene that the first time that I read it, it was comical. I laughed out loud at it. And when you get to a piece of classic literature where you're like, something's weird. Like this is a Scott Hahn thing. He says, if you get to a place in the gospel where you're like, what the heck? Pay attention to that thing because there's something happening there. You're not confused for no reason because you're stupid. It's like, no, there's something going on. Like the specific one he was talking about was when Jesus meets, who's the one with no guile? The guy who just says what he thinks.
Oh,
his name is Bartholomew, but I forget his other name. Yeah, Nathaniel. Yeah. So when he meets Nathaniel, there's like this weird exchange of like, I perceive that you are
like under the fig tree.
Right. Well, I saw you under the fig tree, and he said, "Sir, you are a prophet." Like saying weird things like that, or like when he talked to the woman at the well, and he told her whole life story, and she said, "I perceive that you are a prophet." Why would she perceive that he's a prophet?
Right.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, I would be freaked out and be like, "Why are you spying on me?"
Why are you stalker man?
Right. But anyway, it's like, so Scott Hahn's point is, if you encounter something that makes you go, "Huh," there's probably something going on there. And in Dracula, there's this scene where, so as the story develops, there's all of these suitors, men pursuing this female protagonist, and I forget which one it is. I can't remember if it's Lucy or if it can't be Mina, because Mina's married to Jonathan, so it's got to be Lucy. And she, every night, Dracula climbs in her window and drinks her blood and leaves. And every morning they walk in and she's like anemic and on the edge of death. And they're like, well, somebody needs to do a blood transfusion. And so they tie up their arm, tighten up what's the word for that? I can't think of the word. The thing you tie up to make your veins bulge.
Tourniquet?
Yeah, the tourniquet thing. And then they do a little blood transfusion and give her blood again. And then the next night, Dracula climbs in her window, drinks her blood, leaves. They find her without blood again, and someone else has to give their blood. And this whole idea of this leech, this sucker of life, this person who exists only to draw the life all out of other people. And then these suitors who demonstrating like authentic love for someone, literally giving their own blood, like their own body,
to keep her alive,
sacrificed to restore her to life. Like, if that's not Christological imagery, like, I don't know what is. And there's literal Christological imagery, because there comes a time in the narrative where they are chasing down Dracula, and he has like 40 properties across London. That might be wrong. I think but I don't remember. He's got a bunch of properties across London and across the world. But the way that he sort of he sort of maintains his little sanctuaries are just these boxes filled with dirt from Transylvania or wherever it actually is. And he just like goes in those boxes and chills there because I guess that's the rules with Dracula. And the rules don't matter because it's the storytelling. It's
right.
and if you construct the rules in a way that is coherent internally, the rules really don't matter. They can be arbitrary because nobody cares about the Dracula verse and like if it's canon or not, and if there's going to be a season of a spin-off for Jonathan Harker's character. Like no one cares about the rules as long as they're coherent and they support the storytelling.
Right, and they make sense.
And so Dracula has these little boxes full of his dirt from home, and he uses that as kind of like his little embassy. If he has those boxes, he can live in a certain place for an undefined amount of time. So Van Helsing, if you've heard that name before, he comes from Dracula. This novel, he has come to be known as like a supernatural, like a hunter of supernatural monsters. And in this book, he is kind of just an expert in the field. I don't know what the field is, but he knows about Dracula at least. And he literally has gotten permission from a priest to like take all these consecrated hosts, so Jesus, body, blood, soul, and divinity, and goes to the locations where Dracula has his boxes and just puts them in the boxes.
Really?
And just
so
to nullify,
important.
Right? Because if Jesus is like, think about that, he literally puts a consecrated host inside one of these boxes, so Dracula can't use it anymore.
Wow.
Like literally, Jesus
He's not
Christ,
even Catholic,
right?
this author.
Literally, well, I mean, I think there was a much more sacramental sense in the 1800s than we have in Protestant Christianity today.
Very true.
And just a much greater reverence for that kind of spirituality anyway. But yeah, literally just putting Jesus into these boxes and Dracula can't get into them anymore. It's kind of crazy. And the way that, and this is an interesting thing too, and I feel like this is the kind of thing you get in trouble for saying, but whatever. So when I think it's Lucy, she starts to transform little by little into a vampire. Night by night, she gets a little bit worse. When she becomes a full vampire, whereas you see this dichotomy between the authentic man and the toxic man as being one who serves, one who protects, one who gives life, who offers their life, and one who steals life and draws life away. With the woman, she becomes like overtly sexual and overtly like seductive. Like, and that I think is so interesting. It's the corruption of masculinity and the corruption of femininity. Because masculinity, you think about authentic masculinity as like
giving of themselves, but he's
the
taking
giver, the offering of life, even down to like our biology is like the production of life.
Right.
And with women, it's like the authentic femininity is like this idea of like is receiving and creating home and caretaking and all of this sort of generalities. But with these characters, with the female character, as she becomes a full vampire, she draws in and receives, but in a corrupt way.
And then she gives in a corrupt way.
Yeah, so it's like she is becoming this explicitly sexual character that is just trying to draw you in like as a trap. Yeah. Right? And I'm like, dang, this is interesting. It's really, really powerful imagery. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll have to read that.
Yeah.
It's a long book. It's
like what, 400 or 500 pages, something like that. It takes a while to read, but every bit worth it.
Did you see the latest movie on it? The Last Voyage of the...
I did.
Was it good?
It was fun and stupid.
Fun and stupid.
I mean, it's whatever. I like, generally speaking, I like scary movies. We talked about this.
We did?
Way early on.
Yeah.
It's whatever. If you like scary movies...
Stupid?
It had no story. It was just a bunch of people on a ship, one by one, getting nabbed by a monster.
Dracula.
There were cool. Right? Yeah, if you know Dracula, you're gonna know the Easter eggs that they put in there from the story and the characters. It's cool. It's fun.
What's the Easter eggs?
I mean, just like little references to characters and references to the stories.
I think you meant literal Easter eggs.
No, not literal.
Oh well.
They put Easter eggs into Dracula's boxes, and he couldn't use them after that. So.
See, it's the corruption because that was supposed to be the Eucharist.
Exactly.
And they put Easter eggs in there instead.
You wait 150 years of storytelling really messes up a narrative.
Hey all, thank you so much for listening to that episode. I just want to take a quick break to tell you about one of our sponsors, which is Tan Books. Tan Books is a family-owned traditional Catholic publishing company whose mission is to help people become saints. They believe that it is their duty to preserve and promote the spiritual, theological, and liturgical traditions of Holy Mother Church, especially in these challenging times. At TAN, they offer a wide variety of resources to help individuals on their journey to holiness and to become a saint. With over 1,000 titles ranging on topics from theology, scripture, church history, and books designated specifically for men, TAN aims to provide valuable knowledge and guidance that can help strengthen your faith and inspire spiritual growth. Join Father Dom and myself on this journey to sainthood. Visit tanbooks.com and be sure to use the code manlycatholic at checkout to get 15% off your order, and also helps support the podcast as well. Together, let's strive to become saints, aligning our lives with the teachings of the church and fulfilling our mission to bring Christ to the world. Again, that is code manlycatholic at tanbooks.com. Thank you all so much for listening to this. Let's get back to that episode.
What is the best horror film you've seen?
Ooh. Define horror. Is it just like a spooky movie?
I guess,
Any kind of movie that would make you scared?
Yeah. That's like designed to scare you, I guess.
Yeah, okay, so I feel like all the answers I'm going to give are like the cop-out Catholic answers. I'll go through those, and then I'll see if there's any that are still there.
Okay.
Obviously, A Quiet Place, for the same reasons I just mentioned. It's remarkable. It's incredible. The symbolism is good. The acting is good. There's a few plot holes that are kind of silly, but like... Who cares? That's the thing. If I love who cares if there's some plot? Like, the point is not to like make a perfect story that's totally perfectly coherent.
They want everything to be like
I watch movies with people who are like, well, that's not realistic. It's like, well, I don't care that it's realistic.
It's a good story.
Like you're completely missing the point. Why are you watching movies like this?
Right.
Your life must be miserable. Sorry to all those very critical people out there. You're welcome here. No, I mean, it's good. Let's see. Obviously, I think Signs is a great example of that. And I recently, there's a theory going around recently that Signs is that the aliens in Signs are actually demons, that they're not actual extraterrestrial beings, that they're actual literal demons. And
why is that?
Well, okay, so it's not an airtight theory, and I don't.
Well, that's okay.
I'm not necessarily 100% like 100% convinced by it.
Well, Mel Gibson's in it, who is such of a contest, but
well, there you go.
He's super Catholic.
I mean, what are you gonna say? I'm not gonna dig Mel Gibson. He's done more work for the Lord in the world than I have. So,
and side note, the Resurrection,
I heard,
is supposedly it is filming.
That's incredible. I can't wait
for that because anyways, continue.
So Signs. So the arguments for, I mean, spoilers for a 25-year-old movie. Like what?
Oh, okay. Is that with the water?
So they talk about, and this is some of the arguments that I think are really, really weak arguments that don't hold water. If you pardon the pun. Yeah, no. They talk about his daughter as like, she's an angel. Somebody mentions her as an angel like multiple times, and so like her connection to like water being everywhere, sort of this sanctifying presence, or maybe it's the fact that he's like a priest and like the connection between the water and them, like some kind of holiness there.
Well, he was a priest,
but they don't. So the thing is too that they don't say that it's water explicitly. I mean, I think they do, but I think the argument that the people propounding this theory want you to think is that they think it's water, but it's actually in their case holy water, and they don't realize it, or water that is somehow sanctified in some way. Because when they talk about how they discovered the solution, what do they say? Do you remember what they say in the movie about?
I haven't seen it in so long. No.
Yeah, they say a response. The news broadcasters don't say it's water. We found out that water hurts them, right? Like that would be too obvious. They say a weapon against these creatures has been found or has been discovered. It's like an ancient weapon from the Middle East or something like that, or an ancient something that was discovered in the Middle East. And it's like, oh, maybe a sacramental from the tradition of the church, which found its origins in the Middle East. And the idea that, like, one of the examples I thought was an interesting one, again, not convincing, but certainly compelling, was, remember when he's in M. Night Shyamalan's house, and the alien or demon or whatever it is in the pantry. Mm-hmm. And these things are pretty intimidating. Like, they're giant. They're like 7 feet tall. They're very strong, right? So the fact that one could get stuck in the pantry is like, what?
Yeah.
Why would it? And so the implication is actually similar to something about Dracula and vampire lore, is that with a demon or with a vampire or something, the only way for it to pass through to you is for you to open the door to it.
Oh, like give it permission.
And so the example they give is, it's behind a door. And so the symbolism here is that it's like pantry. Of course, you and I could escape from a pantry if we wanted to.
Right.
And we're not 7 feet tall hulking monsters.
Right.
You know, so the idea is, there's a little bit of a breadcrumb trail leading you to that, because what is the whole movie about? And I think this is where the argument hinges, is the whole movie is about this balance between like science and faith, miracle and science, and where is the line blurred?
Right.
Which I think is a fascinating,
it really is,
topic. Dean Koontz does a book about that. I forget what it's called. I'll think about it. You can Google it while I'm talking. Put in like Dean Koontz. It's not The Happening, because that's another M. Night Shyamalan movie, but it's something like that. But anyway, the whole movie hinges on this idea of where's the line between religious faith and scientific knowledge blurred. And so things that you assume, like you can find enough evidence to suggest that these are aliens if you're looking for aliens, and you can find enough evidence to suggest that they're demons if you're looking for demons. And I think the same can be said of like faith in general, like religious faith. I was listening to a podcast today, actually, that there was a quote that somebody said where God gives us just enough light where if we're looking for him, we'll find him. And if we're looking to avoid him, we won't find him, you know? And I think that's interesting. So yeah, I would say Signs is great. I would say A Quiet Place is great. Scary. I gotta be honest, some of the Conjuring movies, I think it's The Conjuring. It's either The Conjuring or what's that other one? It's like, I feel like it's the same actor is the main character in both of them. They have some pretty cool Catholic themes, honestly, but
The Conjuring.
I don't know. I'm blanking a little bit. What about you? Do you have any scary movies you like?
I did like Signs quite a bit, actually. I'm looking up The Conjuring. Sorry.
It's called The Taking, by the way. The Dean Koontz book. It's called The Taking. Okay. So if you're looking for a good book about kind of this sort of topic of, it's kind of an apocalypse. He's pretty good at those. Sort of an end of the world sort of situation where these alien monsters are starting to appear, and the lines are a little bit blurred between, what's going on here?
There's another Conjuring movie coming out next year, in case you guys are wondering.
Yeah. I'll tell you the movies I don't like is the Ari Aster movies. Midsummer, he's a director. Midsummer and Hereditary.
Never saw those.
Good. Don't see them.
Pretty bad.
Well, again, I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's going to have their own tolerance level. It's what he does with his movies in terms of the ideas that he plants in your mind and your memory. Like, and at the end of the day, what do we have but our memory and our imagination? And like what do you mean?
So,
I'm not going to say exactly the things that he does in the storytelling, because
is it dark?
It's. I would use the word disturbing.
Is Hereditary like generational sins?
Hereditary is like, grandma is a witch and she has a real special connection to granddaughter. Lots of demonic cultic influence. And
but that's real.
It is real, but it's I didn't have the stomach for it.
It's in a dark way, very dark and disturbing.
It's extremely dark, and the way it's just the way that he presents things. It's like, and again, if you're a horror movie lover and you love the thrill of like, whoa, that's crazy, like another new level of shock, like, okay, I don't know if I.
So it's the fact that he does it in a shocking way.
It's shocking both. It's again, but it's not just the visuals. It's not just the idea of like the things that you're seeing and the things that they're saying and the things that they're doing. It's the concepts. It's like certain things happen in those movies that are so I've never thought of before, and I would never have thought of if I hadn't watched those movies, and now I can't get that back. Like a situation that I never could have imagined happening that's so horrifying. Okay. And I hate, now I'm like piquing people's interest, but it's like, it's just the way that and I mean, again, it's just like the way somebody dies and the way somebody discovers the way they died. I mean, that's actually true in both movies. Yeah. It's the way somebody dies and how they were discovered being after they died and how they died. And it's like
disturbing,
truly god awful.
Wait,
use the term correctly.
What's Midsummer?
Midsummer is a movie about these teens who, or I guess they're college students, grad students, who the main character, her sister kills herself, and her parents. It's like a murder-suicide.
Wow.
And that's actually the thing in that movie that's the most horrifying is that. But it's just really, really graphic. It's really, I mean, it's very sexual. Like there's a lot, there's like nudity and like, and it's just, I think he goes for like, rather than the scary and like he just goes for the like disturbing. Like it just hurts your heart almost to watch it.
I don't like
and
those.
That's the kind of stuff that I
like
can't.
those horror films where
I wish I could unwatch that if I could.
Because I totally understand, you know, especially in the genre of horror, there's going to be certain things that are disturbing, but when you can tell like it wasn't necessary, but they just put it there to really disturb you
I think the value of the horror genre and the value of, well, yeah, I guess the horror genre, and I think there's a limited scope for it, but the value of it is facing scary things.
Oh, 100%.
I think as a medium, it's a great genre for building up courage and remembering that the world has darkness in it.
Right.
But it's kind of like with exorcism, like we said earlier, it's like you can have a little too much interest in it, or you could ignore it, and both of those are bad things.
Well, because I think, too, a lot of times horror, like you said with Hereditary, it kind of drifts into the world of the demonic.
Yeah.
Because, well, if you just think about just human history, a lot of the most gruesome, horrible things probably had demons involved anyways. Because, I mean, they can think of the most horrible things possible.
Right.
And if someone actively allows them in, then they can probably commit these horrendous acts that
and it's like
maybe
demons are scary. And I know a lot of friends who, like, you tell them about a movie like this and they're like, oh, I can't watch that. It's too real because demons are real. It's like, I mean, if you're not far from Christ, like we don't have anything to be afraid of. We're powerless in his presence. But
if the movie generally bothers you, we talked about this too when we dived into the last time, is if you have a problem with it, like if it's going to lead you away from Christ, then clearly don't watch it.
Right.
But
and that's the ultimate thing, is there's so many different opportunities. I mean, again, we said entertainment. There's so many different movies we could watch, so many different books we could read, so many different things that we could take in.
It's like, what is bringing you closer to Christ?
And that's the thing, like, is it? And I don't want to make everyone, I don't want you to have to say like, and maybe this is a good practice, maybe I should do this more. Say, before I watch a movie or before I watch a book, or watch a book with my eyes as I go over the page. I guess you're watching it kind of. But like before you do it, is this bringing me closer to Christ? I don't want people to get robotic and scrupulous, but there's like, there's
leisure too, right? There's purposeful leisure, and if like watching a movie like that
is this hurting your soul?
Right.
Yeah. And those movies hurt my soul, man.
I mean, because I'm getting better about this, but like I used to be obsessed with sports, you know, and like again, sports are fine,
right?
But if I'm like actively engaged with it and it's enjoyable for me, but if it's like like when I was in like junior high, I'd literally have like, if my team was losing, I would be super upset. I was like, clearly that's not healthy, especially if I'm a 35-year-old man and I'm still emotionally attached to the whims of a sports team that they don't even care about me and has no reaction.
I think the exact same thing can be said of politics. I'm a big political nerd. And what is it? It's two sports. It's the red team and the blue team.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like, you could do fantasy Congress. Yeah. I bet that's actually probably a thing.
That probably is a thing.
You
if
pick
not,
teams. Like, oh, we're going to have the judiciary. This is the nerdiest thing I've ever said. Like, we're going to have fantasy judiciary committee. Like, Senate judiciary committee. Who would you put on it?
This is great. We should look
dork.
this up. Nerd.
But that's the thing, is I have the same thing with politics, and it weighs so heavily on my heart.
Well, it can.
And why do I care? It's like I always tell myself, oh, I'd like to be well informed and know about the facts. And to what end?
Right.
Like, is that making you happy? Is that leading anyone to Jesus? And is that doing anything good? Or is it just, or can you admit that it's like, it's your guilty pleasure. It's your indulgence. It's my sports. Right.
Well, again, yeah, like you said, is what can you handle? You know, because there's this prudence involved in temperance.
Right.
Right.
And that's a good point.
It's remembering those virtues that, I mean, it's anything you do. It's eating, it's exercise, it's work. It's all these things. They're good in and of themselves, but when it becomes an idol, when it's replacing your time with God, then of course it's going to become corrupted and lead you into
So
vice. And
what are some ways that you've maybe grown since discovering that sports was like an idol for you? Like, how do you find ways to decenter that and put Jesus back on the...
I had multiple kids.
Okay, so that is so beautiful though, right? Because
no, it is, and I want to, maybe I can kind of pull this out, but it's gaining responsibility and recognizing that your time is not your own.
Ooh,
and when you do have time,
write that down.
You need to make the most of it. Because it's so easy when you don't have, and this isn't just for marriage. It's just when you don't have a responsibility, it's easy to fall into these. Like I said, I mean, sports for me, video games. I was addicted big time, and because I didn't have any responsibility.
And that's
and I
gaining responsibility, realizing your time is not your own. That's
because
sick.
I remember this too. When Betsy and me first got married, I still had an Xbox, and I remember when Noah, when she was pregnant with Noah, I would still be playing video games because she would like go to bed at like 7:30 because she was exhausted because she's growing a child, and I would just like play video games for like 3 hours, 4 hours, like it was nothing, like my college days, right? And then I'm like, especially when Noah was born, I'm like, I can't do this because he's gonna be waking up multiple times in the night.
Yeah. And
then I'm not going to get sleep, and I'm going to be grouchy and pissed off, and I don't want to live like that. And so I sold my Xbox, and I haven't played video games since. So this has been
very St. Francis of you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying. But then with sports, because I still struggle with sports quite a bit, especially being on East Coast time.
I struggle with sports too. I'm kind of slow, and I don't jump very high. Sorry, keep going. It's stupid. Every possible stupid joke. Keep going.
Gosh, Dan. And
I'm never gonna get invited back.
Probably not. And now I lost my train of thought.
Well, you struggled with sports even after you sold your Xbox. Sports was still a difficulty.
So I grew up in California. So being on the Eastern time zone, all the games started super late, which was kind of a blessing to be honest, because then I couldn't stay up till 10:30.
It forces you out of those habits that you were enslaved to.
Yeah, it forced me. Because I'm a type of guy, too, where I literally have to go cold turkey. I can't I'm going to, manage this well, and I'm going to play, one video game for, an hour, and then I'll be done. It's like, no. If I'm going to play, I'm going to play for, 5 hours straight. It's nothing. So, yeah, I have to totally eliminate it. And I mean, I still struggle with.
And again, that comes back
thing.
to what you said about what are you able to tolerate? Because I would push back and say I think there is value in video games.
And I'm not saying there's
right,
not.
right. And I know you're not, but I wanted to make that clarification too.
Well, there's nothing wrong with sports too.
Right.
Right. So again, it's what draws you closer to Christ, because Christ gives you leisure. I mean, there's a reason He gives a day of rest, right? And I like to look at leisure as giving your soul what it needs to prepare yourself to draw closer to Christ. And because whether it's video games, because there can be great value in video games, you're playing with a community, maybe there's a couple guys that you play with, every Sunday night or something.
Right.
Because it de-stresses you. If it's fun for you, it's entertaining.
And there's legit research out there that talks about the way that playing games together with your family, whether it's mobile games or other things, actually has a significant
100%.
Bonding effect.
Right.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, same thing too with if you watch sports with somebody that you do every couple weeks. I mean, there's tremendous value in that because there's that camaraderie, and it can lead into deeper conversations and stuff like that too. So, I mean, and again, anything you do. If you do too much, it can lead you away from Christ. If you do it the right amount, it can lead you closer to Christ. So
I wish He would just come with me.
What's that?
I said I wish He would just come with me.
Come with you where?
When I go away from Him. He actually does. I'm kind of playing off of your things lead us away from Christ, lead us towards Him. It's He actually does come with us, but
He sure does.
We kind of need to turn back towards Him. That's all it is.
Sometimes, we turn our back on Him.
Yeah.
And maybe we act like we don't want Him there.
The old Footprints poem?
Oh, yeah.
It's super cheese. It's in every classroom.
Yep.
Framed on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So Sia, the singer with the big hair, it's black and white, black on one side.
Sounds familiar.
I'll show you a picture of her. Let's see.
Is it?
This is her. You can't see her face because she always hides it. Black and yeah. So she has a song based on that poem, which is like seems like very strange at first. You made me think of a line from that song, and it is,
which song?
Yeah, and what's that?
Which song?
The song is called Footprints.
Okay. She did Cheap Thrills.
And Chandelier. It's her.
That's funny. I remember those songs.
I'm trying to find the line, but it's basically just like she thought. Well, I'll just read part of it. But what if I had got the things I knew it was? What if I had got the things I knew it was I who'd abandon you? Oh, no. Okay, so it's thought you'd abandoned me and let go of my hand, but you were carrying me to safety. And it's like this idea that when we think God has turned his back on us, it's like he like ontologically he can't do that. He is always present to us. He's always there. It's always us that we have turned our back on him. But it's also very easy to turn back. Like it takes 3 seconds.
Right. But sometimes it's very hard to. I mean, it's easy.
So maybe the right word is simple.
Yeah, no, you're right though. I mean, because anything you do in life, right? It's technically simple, but
but we overcomplicate it. Like we can say to ourselves, as much as it takes 3 seconds to turn back to God and talk to him in prayer, we can say, "Oh, well, I don't deserve it," or "Oh, I'm not good enough," or "Oh, who cares?" or "Oh, this or that," and that complicates it. Suddenly, it's not simple, and so it's even though it takes no effort, it suddenly is impossible, insurmountable. So I don't know why I was talking about Sia, but
that's all right. Stream of consciousness.
That's what this episode is going to be called.
Stream of consciousness. I think we should end with Sia.
Yeah?
Just end it.
It's a good song. We should play that, although you might be, I don't know if you're allowed to play.
Which one? I Love music. Cheap Thrills.
No. Do.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you get in trouble if you sing it, right?
Oh, that's true.
It's about playing the file. Come on.
Maybe
turn
Jeff
the radio on Friday night. I don't remember how.
That was good.
Oh, thank you. Maybe I'll be a singer.
One day.
Quit PT.
Don't tell Erin.
She already knows.
Oh, about your singing voice?
About my singing career.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Tomorrow's my last day.
If you have stuck around for this whole episode, God bless you. I think you're going to get a partial indulgence.
Get a gold star. You're a gold star member.
Gold star member.
Yeah.
I think so too. Make sure you get some Mystic Monk coffee.
Let me know how you thought about the singing. Actually, don't.
Yes.
Please don't.
Leave a review.
Please. Not for the singing, though.
Please for the singing.
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, whatever you want. Until next time, everyone. Go out there and be a saint. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of The Manly Catholic. If you have not already done so, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. It will also help grow the show and reach as many men as possible. We truly think this podcast can change families and help men to change the world. Thank you again so much for tuning in, and God bless you.